Hi, my name is Syed Ahsan, and today I'll be showing you a calculator tutorial on how to find value on your Texas Instruments graphing calculator. For the purposes of our tutorial, I'll be using a TI-84 Plus Silver Edition emulator. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to find value with the graph of an equation. For our tutorial, we'll be using this equation right here, y equals x cubed minus 4x minus 1. So the first thing that we have to do in this process is we have to graph it so we have an idea of what we're working with. To do this, you're going to press y equals, which is located right here on your calculator, and it'll take you to this screen. And in the y1 space, which is the first thing that your cursor is on and it's blinking on, you're going to put in the equation. So I'm going to put in x to the power of 3 minus 4x minus 1. And now that I have that put in, I'm going to graph it. And our graph looks a little bit like this. Now, I don't like how this graph looks just because I have way too much space over here in the x-axis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my window so that I don't have to see as much of that unneeded x-axis. I'm going to put -5 in the x minimum, 5 in the x maximum, 2 for my x scale, and then -15 and 15 for the y values. And then for the y scale, I'll use 5. So now my new graph looks like this. Just a little bit easier to look at, just so you know what you're working with a little bit better. So this function, as you can see, is cubic. So values within this function are going to be a little bit more spread out than, say, a linear equation or a quadratic if you have to use those for problems. And it's a little bit harder to predict, which makes using a calculator all that much more useful. But the same rules still apply regardless of what function you're using, whether it be quartic, quadratic, what have you. The same rules to find value will still apply to those equations as well, and that's very important to realize as we go through this tutorial. So let's say hypothetically that you want to find the y value when x equals 2. To do this, from the screen of the graph, you need to press second, trace, and then you're going to hit enter. And you can do this because value is the first thing that's highlighted under this calculate menu. We need to get to value, and since it's already highlighted, we can just press enter. So now it'll take you to this screen right here, and you'll have x equals and then your cursor blinking in the bottom left. This is just asking for the x value that you're given. And in this problem, we're given that x equals 2. So that's all you really do. You have to press 2 right there, and then you press enter. Now it'll give you a screen with your equation displayed on the top left, the x value you just put in on the bottom left, and then the y value you're looking for to the right of the y-axis at the bottom right here. So that's essentially the process to finding value from your graph. So let's say that you need to find the y value at a value of x that's a little bit harder to calculate than 2, because 2 you can just put into your equation and plug in 2 into your x into the equation and find the value is -1. That's very easy to do, but with a number like 3.6434, it's a little bit harder to do that by hand. But just like when you're calculating with, integers or easier numbers, the process doesn't really change. You're going to do second, trace, value, and then you're just going to put in your new value, 0.6434. Hit enter. You're going to get a y value of 32.79 approximately. So as you can see, it doesn't really matter what number it is that you're looking for. You can put in anything for x, and it will give you the y value at that point. So what's important to realize with this is that the calculator will only allow you to put in the x value within the domain placed in the window. So what I mean by that is, in my window, my x value is -5 for my minimum, and then for my maximum, it's 5. So this basically means I can't calculate y values past the confines of anything greater than 5 or less than -5. So to show you what I mean, let's try to find the y value when x equals 17. So let's repeat that process. Value 17, and we get an error screen. So this is a very easy fix. All we need to do is we need to readjust our windows to accommodate our new value. So we just need a number or a y window that will accommodate 17. So all that we really need to change is our x maximum, because 17 is a positive number. Our minimum doesn't really need to change. So I'm going to change this to 20 just because I want a little bit of room when I'm looking at my graph. I don't want it to just cut off at 17. And just to even out my graph a little bit more, I'm just going to change my x minimum to -20. Y values don't really need to change, and I'll show you why in just a second. So that's what my new graph looks like. And so now I am able to calculate the value at 17. Let's see what that looks like. 4,844. Now, as you can see, 4,844 isn't displayed on my y-axis because my y maximum is only 15. And that's the distinction that you need to make between the x and y minimums and maximums. While there is a restriction on the values you can put in for your x, the y is continuous in these graphs, and you'll get any y value you want as long as your x minimums and maximums are within the confines of the x value that you're given. And so that's how you find value with your graph. So regardless of the function you're working with, the processes to find value will always be the same, with the exception of finding value outside of the window. And when that happens, as I said, all you need to do is adjust your windows to something that's compatible with the number you're working with. So now I'm going to show you how to find value from your home screen. The first method is through the vars or alpha menu. So to do this, you need to have the equation already put into the y1 space, just like we already do. And then from the home screen, you need to press vars, scroll over to yvars right here, and then you need to get to function. And since function is the first one on here, it's already highlighted, we can just go ahead and press enter. Now, it's important to realize here that it doesn't really matter which space that you put your equation into, you just need to remember which space it is. So we put ours into the y1 space, so that's the one we're going to use, but if you put it into y2, y3, doesn't really matter, just make sure you're cognizant of the space you put it in so that you can do this accurately. So ours is y1, so you make sure that y1 is highlighted, you press enter. Now, we want to find the value at 2. So what we need to do is we need to open parentheses right here, just like that. Press 2, close our parentheses, and then we can hit enter. And just like on the graph, we get a y value of -1. And if we plug it into our equation, we get exactly that number as well. We can try this with all of our other numbers as well. Function, y1. And then I'm going to hit 3.6434. That was our second value that we used. And I get 32.79 again. Same thing with 17. Function, y1, 17. There you go. And what's important to know here is that you don't have any limitations on the x values you can put in. You can put in 17, you can put in 5,000. Either way, you're not looking at the graph and it's not restrained within any sort of x minimums or maximums. So you can put in any value you want for your x value right here. A shortcut that you can use if you have the new operating system 2.55 MP. I'm pretty sure is the newest Texas Instruments operating system for the TI-84. Instead of pressing vars, Y vars, and then hitting function, you can just take a shortcut by hitting alpha, trace, and then picking whichever space you use for your equation from here. And ours is in Y1, so we're going to do the same thing. And then let's say 17 is the value we want to test. Gets you the exact same thing. Just a little shortcut to save you some time. So that's one way. The second way from the home screen is through the table. And just like with the vars menu, you need to have the Y equation already set into one of these spaces. So from the home screen, you're going to do second window right here, and it'll take you to this table setup screen over here. So all you really need to do from this screen is you need to scroll down to independent right over here. Going to scroll down, and then you need to change auto to ask over here. After you do that, you can go right back to your home screen, or you can just press second graph right here, and this will take you to a table. Now in one column you have your X values, and in the second column you have your Y values. All you need to do is input your X values and you'll be set. So you can do this pretty much one after another. Our values are 2, and you'll get -1 in the Y1 column. Our second value is 3.6434. Enter. That'll give you 32.79. And our last value is 17, and that'll give you 4,844. And just like the Y vars and the alpha method, there is no restriction on the X value you can use. There's no domain, there's no window restrictions. So when you're doing value from your home screen, the restrictions placed by the X minimum and maximum don't really apply. So that is my calculator tutorial on how to find value on your Texas Instruments calculator. Hope it helped. Goodbye.